back at the show. I'm your host, Casey Allen. Glad to be back with you guys on this Tuesday night. We got a big show tonight. Our featured story is going to be what's going on with the drones. We're going to follow up on that. We covered that 2 episodes ago at the very beginning of this debacle, about a week ago. And we're going to continue to talk about the developing theories, what the mainstream media said about it. And even John Kirby and the White House have admitted that these drones are under their control and they have an idea what's going on. But they're refusing to tell us the actual cause, leaving us in the dark. And more speculation and all these theories of what could actually have been the case, such as the theory by John Ferguson, who says that missiles from the Reagan administration in the 80s came from Ukraine to the United States to be disposed of, and apparently 80 of them went unaccounted for. And his theory is that because the drones are so low to the ground, that they're searching for a gas leak. They're looking for these remaining nuclear bombs. He thinks that the Biden administration is trying to find them because there's a potential leak. Now, that hasn't been confirmed. This is clearly all speculation. I think that if this is something they were actually serious and they, knew about, why would they be doing this at the very last minute and not doing this at the beginning of the administration? Like, why is this something that's just now getting talked about? So I think that's a bit of a stretch. It could be a possibility. I think you're really reaching there to say that this is a 1980s nuclear missile that wasn't disposed properly that they're searching for. And then just this afternoon, the mayor of New Jersey claims that on December 2nd, a shipment full of Category 3 radioactive equipment went missing. The shipping container is completely empty when they found it, and the items in there, like I said, are Category 3, which Category 3 radiation is not necessarily something that is of risk to human injury, and it likely has very little radiation in it to begin with. It is possible because, the drones are sighted in New Jersey, the shipment there has gone missing. It could be something that's just a coincidence though. So I'm not fully inclined to exactly jump on either of those theories. And which brings me to my actual theory here and something I predicted in a post on January 1st last year. I did a yearly prediction of the things I thought would happen in 2024. And one of my predictions, which is seeming to come true, was called Project Bluebeam. The fact that the US government would try to initiate a fake alien invasion with the use of technology greater known to us to manipulate us into believing a certain world event, to maybe looking for more security and looking for their help, or just twisting reality and furthering the proof of the Orwellian state that we're living in. Which brings me to Project Bluebeam. So Project Bluebeam, the origin was from someone called Serge Monas in the 1990s. He claims there's a secret group associated with NASA and the UN operating under a globalist, one world, one religion regime that's intention is to manipulate the public. And this is by 4 steps in which he came out with in 1990. Number 1, fabricated earthquakes to destroy historical evidence. Now there hasn't been any direct proof of this, but this is a conversation that's been had among conspiracy theorists. The whole earthquake machine. If you actually go to The Simpsons, there is an episode in which they predict this to be an earthquake machine. Homer Simpson jumps off of a building, has a piece of rope tied to his foot, and falls all the way to the ground and bungees all the way up. But before he comes back up, he goes to something called the Mole People, and there's some Tartarian earthquake machine that's being used down there, is what they're foreshadowing. So that's not the most convincing out of the 4 steps, but I think the other 3 definitely will be more convincing. Number 2, massive holographic light show projected into sky to simulate celestial events such as the Second Coming or an alien invasion using technology like holography or lasers. So that does sound like a lot of what we've seen over the past week. Not 100%, like we don't have any direct evidence to aliens, but this weird use of technology, the weird light show that we saw, there was that strange orb in the sky. It's a little weird because they are using this technology to manipulate us. And yes, we're aware of drones and everything they're doing to a point, but the things we don't know about is very possible to use, such as lasers and holographic technology, kind of like how they have with phones and cell phones, which is the next point, because his third point was electronic telepathy to program and control the minds, which you could argue is cell phones and modern technology, which right now we're trying to debunk and figure out what's going on with this very incident with technology that is also manipulating our perception of what's actually happening. And number 4 is creating a new global religion. If these people have the power to manipulate us with technology that's greater than our understanding, They're going to do that. And they're going to use it to their fullest capacity to control our emotions, to control our perception of reality. That's what the idea behind this is. And if they can do that, they certainly will. And if they can, get some supernatural force in the sky that we've never seen before, they could really shape the perception and, the faith-driven instinct in people. And that's scary to think about, that they could play God here. And that's partly what they're doing. Even what John Kirby and the White House are doing, they're not actually giving us answers, although they made it clear that they are in power and they're in charge. But it's not in our best interest to know the truth. So that's what they're doing. They are playing God in a sense. They're leaving us in the dark to speculate what's going on. I'm still not going to rule out my other theory that this was done intentionally by our government, just like things with 9/11 and TSA. They use these false flag events and panicking events to make us be more inclined to security and want to go along with strict regulations so we feel more comfortable. And again, that could be a stretch, but I think that's something that is on the table here. They use this technology to manipulate our perception, to make us want to trust them more, and for all of us to come together when we're extremely divided and actually look to government for answers. And clearly that's not the case, because we live in a completely different world, and independent journalism, people just like you and me, we are trusted and we are more credible than the mainstream media, and especially the government and their sources. So it's really up to us to figure out the truth, and it's up to us to document what's going on in the sky. You also have to think about foreign threats and foreign adversaries. Could this be something that's a distraction to throw us off from what's happening in the Middle East with Syria and Israel? Could this be a distraction from what's going on in Russia? Or could there be something completely different going on that we don't even know about, and they just want us to focus on this event? I do think we'll get answers within the week. There's so many people that are involved and engaged in this conversation and want answers. I think we're going to find them. It's only a matter of time. But it's just weird that there's so many different theories and there's so many different things we've heard, but we can't match truth to any of them. It takes a certain person that's psychologically equipped enough to see through the mainstream media and the propaganda lies. Like, view the world as a telescope. Everything you see and the reality you perceive is through the lens of that telescope. But the people who have control through the lens you're seeing are powerful people who do not have your interests at heart, and they want to manipulate you. They want to control you for their best interest. That's how you have to view reality. That's how you have to view this incident and everything else. And you'll have a better chance of not being manipulated. You'll be able to form your own opinions, avoid the groupthink and cult-like mentality, and you'll have your own individual ideas. And that's what we need, because we cannot trust the corporate interests who are perpetrating these events and making us question and waste our time to figure out and get to the bottom of something so silly, when I'm sure foreign countries are probably laughing at us. And even if we don't get any answers out of the Biden administration, I think President Trump is going to have some drone files, we should call it, to be released on January 20th, or at least I hope so, because this is information that is a direct threat to our national security. Regardless what the actual cause of the issue is, the fact that our own government has knowingly manipulated and lied to the American people again, that dissembles a trust. It makes us not confident in our elected officials, in which we already aren't. It shows that the powers that be don't have any confidence in their own decision making. I mean, they can't tell the American people a lie that's even good enough to stick for one day. They can't even lie to you honestly. I mean, that's just crazy to me. They can't even lie to you well enough. I mean, they have to actually go in the next day and change it and say, oh, we actually know what it is, but we're still not going to tell you. I mean, it's a joke. It's an actual laughingstock that these people are actually in charge, and they'll go down as the worst administration in history. I think this last event before they left or going to leave, this is the icing on the cake. Like, this is the event that sets the Biden administration completely apart from any administration in American history. Completely incompetent, a direct risk to national security, and a disgrace to every other president before that. And hopefully that'll be over by the 20th. And like I said, I think we're going to get answers when Trump does get inaugurated. I don't think it'll take a month. I'd be willing to bet by this next week, we're going to have a plausible story that most people will go along with, and it'll probably just go under the rug just like everything else. Let's hope this is not a Project Bluebeam type of experiment that they're going to use to manipulate our trust even more. And at the best case, this is just an incompetent government experiment that went totally south, went totally wrong, and hopefully nobody gets hurt. nothing gets damaged, and we just put this under the rug. But I also am inclined to think that there is something more at play here, especially with the timing and just the strange story itself.